Glenn Youngkin wins the race for governor of Virginia, a state Joe Biden won by 10 points. Issues and turnout played key roles in Youngkin's victory. Plus, left-wing media has an absolute meltdown as the results poured in. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
Okay, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with Glenn Youngkin, who came out of nowhere, at least in the eyes of Terry McAuliffe, Joe Biden, and others in the Democrat establishment, to win the race for governor of Virginia. The win was huge, and it marks the first time in 12 years that a Republican has won the governorship of the Commonwealth. The victory also lays waste to the far-left agenda that is taking control of the Democrat Party. As we all know, Joe Biden's Build Back Better slogan is really code for, yep, I'm going to make sure this issue is worse than it was before as well. Americans have had enough, and the race for governor of Virginia was the first clear test. During his victory speech, Youngkin highlighted the number one issue of his campaign, education. Youngkin talked about increasing the education budget and increasing charter schools to give parents a choice in education. He also added this.
Friends, we're gonna embrace our parents, not ignore them. We're gonna press forward with a curriculum that includes listening to parents' input, a curriculum that allows our children to run as fast as they can, teaching them how to think, enabling their dreams to soar. Friends, we are going to reestablish excellence in our schools.
As soon as the Democrats went off the rails on education, this issue was Youngkin's for the taking. Virginia and places like Loudoun County have become ground zero for left-wing policies like critical race theory, and Youngkin showed that he was on the side of parents. It was quite a contrast to McAuliffe, who said this during a debate with Youngkin.
So first of all, this shows how clueless Glenn Youngkin is. He doesn't understand what the laws were because he's never been involved here in helping Virginia. But it was not. The parents had the right to veto books, Glenn, not to be knowledgeable about it, also take them off the shelves. And I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decision.
You vetoed it.
So, yeah, I
stopped
the bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
That statement right there epitomizes the far left, and it shows how out of touch Democrats are with real Americans. Youngkin then went on to talk about taxes.
Friends, we will reduce our cost of living. On day one, we will declare the largest tax refund in the history of Virginia. We're going to eliminate the grocery tax, suspend the most recent hike in the gas tax, double everybody's standard deduction, and we are going to cut taxes on the retirement income of our veterans.
Kitchen table issues. Youngkin talked about education and he talked about taxes, issues that affect people's daily lives. And he continued on that theme. And guess what he talked about next? Any guesses on the next issue he brought up? Here it is.
We're going to comprehensively fund law enforcement because they stand up for us, and we are going to stand up for them. Higher salaries, better equipment, more training, programs like Unity in the community to work to build trust between law enforcement and those they protect and serve.
Well, what do you know? That certainly didn't sound like AOC or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib, who screamed for the defunding of police. That sounded like an embrace of law enforcement, and it sounded like and was a winning issue. And finally, there's the economy.
We're going to get this economy moving again, growing 400,000 new jobs, fostering 10,000 startup businesses. Friends, Virginia will be open for business.
Great comments from Youngkin. As it stands now, it looks like the Youngkin victory will be about 2 percentage points, which is amazing considering the recent track record of Virginia and the fact that McAuliffe had a huge lead just a few months ago. We also have the amazing race for New Jersey governor. 4 years ago, Democrat Phil Murphy won by 14 points. Now it's a dead heat. And make no mistake, the dramatic change comes from the fact that Joe Biden has amplified and magnified the damage that Democrats are doing while in charge. And Americans are scared to death of Build Back Better. All right, so next let's talk about what happened to drive Glenn Youngkin to victory. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Okay, so next let's talk about the election results and what it means for Virginia and going forward into 2022 and 2024. First and foremost, Youngkin was able to capitalize on the issue of education. And I can't stress strongly enough how important that is. For years, Democrats have always led on that issue as far as public opinion polls are concerned. Americans have been under this assumption, this false assumption, that Democrats care more about education. As this was going on, Americans went about their business and just assumed that everything was okay with government-run schools. They didn't pay attention to the fact that over the course of decades, children were becoming indoctrinated instead of educated. But the left kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and all of a sudden, Americans' eyes were opened. They saw the assignments their kids were bringing home. They saw the left-wing agendas of many school boards across the country. They saw critical race theory put into school curriculum, and they recognized that this was an agenda made to put down America and stoke division and distrust. In a Fox News exit poll of Virginia voters, 25% felt that the teaching of critical race theory in schools was their number one issue in their vote for governor. 25% felt that way. Of those people, 71% voted for Youngkin. This issue was huge. McAuliffe showed that he was out of touch, but more importantly, parents were much more involved in speaking out and revealing what schools were teaching. Left-wing commentators, even last night, were saying the same talking point, that critical race theory is some advanced graduate school concept and it's not even being taught to kids. Yet assignment after assignment after assignment that kids would bring home painted a completely different story. If Americans realize just how radical the left has become in education, if the Democrats lose education as one of their core issues, then they are in serious trouble. Every Republican candidate should be talking about this. Parental control, school boards that are accountable and transparent to the parents, curriculum that is pro-American and does not single out students based on race. This is a winning issue everywhere. All right, for those who felt that taxes was the biggest issue, Youngkin won big there as well. 62% of voters who focused on taxes went for Youngkin. Again, kitchen table issues that affect voters' daily lives. And of course, there is the nationalization of the race, meaning this may be a race for governor, but look at what the Democrats are doing nationwide. Look at what Joe Biden is doing to this country. The Democrats have Biden and Harris and Pelosi and Schumer, and look what's happening. Biden campaigned for McAuliffe. So did Obama. So did Harris. Virginia went for Biden by 10 points just a year ago. Now he has 53% disapproval rating in the state, and he is toxic with voters. Biden has absolutely no coattails, and voters don't like the issues that Democrats are pushing. What was the third item Youngkin mentioned in his speech after education and taxes? It was supporting and funding the police. Poll after poll shows that Americans support more police, not less. In fact, blacks often poll higher than whites and Hispanics on the desire for more police, not less. You won't learn that fact from the left-wing establishment media. Americans are turned off by defund the police, critical race theory, Green New Deal policies that promote socialism and hurt the American worker, and a completely open, insecure southern border. All of these national issues can be brought into local and statewide campaigns, and that's exactly what Youngkin did. All right, so next, how about some reaction from the left to McAuliffe's defeat? because some of it was just classic. The left-wing elite truly have no concept of real, hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans. They just don't. Here's CNN's Van Jones from last night.
When this election is over in Virginia, we will know, have we seen the emergence of the Delta variant of Trumpism? The Delta variant of Trumpism. In other words, Youngkin, same disease, but spreads a lot faster and can get a lot more places.
The Delta variant of Trumpism. That is what CNN has to offer. Youngkin stuck to issues like education and taxes, and yet all the left can do is try and link Youngkin to Trump. When Joe Biden came in to campaign for McAuliffe, he mentioned Trump around 25 times in a 15-minute speech. No one cares. They care about what's going on in their lives, what's happening to them day to day. And the fact that Build Back Better is a kick in the rear. Americans can't take any more Build Back Better. Then how about MSNBC? Here's a sample.
The virus was a very
low
not
salience.
importance to many of the voters
which
there.
was fascinating.
It was education,
Right.
which is code for white parents don't like the idea of teaching about race.
Critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection endorsed Republican.
The Trump insurrection endorsed Republican. MSNBC is a piece of work. And how about Joy Reid? Education is now code for being racist? All of us learned about race growing up. Slavery, emancipation, the civil rights movement, and race relations were improving. But we can't have that. And now the left pushes division based on race. And if you don't want critical race theory in your school where people are shamed and degraded based on race, then you are a racist. It's just insane. Clearly, the voters of Virginia aren't listening to the talking heads at MSNBC. Also on MSNBC, host Andrea Mitchell and guest Kristen Welker went on the same talking points even before the election results rolled in. Mitchell accused Youngkin of stoking cultural wars because he talked about critical race theory, which according to Mitchell is not being taught anywhere. What's going to be interesting is if the Democrats learn anything from this defeat or if they keep doing the same thing. Smart politics suggests a change of course, but time and time again, we see the Democrats continuing to push defund the police, radical racial division, and socialist policies. It's like they double down rather than back off. If that continues, 2022 is going to look much like last night. All right, next, here's some news that's not election related, but it does go to the theme that Democrats keep pushing this left-wing woke agenda, even though they know the American people don't support it. The Biden administration is pushing a rule that encourages companies to consider wokeness when determining how to invest 401k funds for employees. Here's the story. The proposal explicitly directs retirement plan administrators and asset managers to consider environmental, social, and corporate governance factors when selecting investments. That would require retirement plan sponsors to give as much weight to a fund's support of liberal causes, such as donating to Black Lives Matter or building wind turbines, as they do to financial returns. The Labor Department rule makes clear that climate change and other ESG factors are often material and should be considered in the assessment of risks and returns. It also rescinds a Trump-era rule that requires administrators and asset managers to only offer investment options solely in the financial interest of participants. This is incredible. The whole idea of retirement investments is to grow the investment, not for a company to boost its ESG rating by taking your money and putting it into left-wing causes. Here's more. Under the new rule, which was unveiled late last month, administrators could also enroll workers in ESG funds as a default if the employee does not select an investment option. Workers could unknowingly be supporting causes that don't align with their political views. This is the latest example of how the political left works, said Senator Marco Rubio, Florida Republican. They want to remake the entire country to comply with the latest woke agenda. And with this rule, the political left's allies on Wall Street and corporate America will be free to do it with no recourse for the workers and retirees harmed by it. So, another policy to promote the left-wing agenda, to actually fund it and support it. And you may not even know what's happening because it's your money and it's hidden away and the company is doing what it wants to do. And all of these corporate boards are moving to the left. The key takeaway is just like with education, we need to be informed, involved, and active. That is the only way to take our country back. Friends, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our next show is going to be Friday evening at the usual time, 6:30 p.m. Central. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.